Well, hello, friends. Welcome to round two's live stream. We are in Memphis, Tennessee, and a couple of things that I need to make sure everybody's aware of. First, there is a delay from the time that I say something to the time that you hear something. It is roughly 15 to 20 seconds. So if you type in a comment, it's going to take me some time to see it. It's going to take you some time to hear my reply. So you are not being ignored, and I am not being ignored by you, right? Right? Sure. Well, either way, welcome to our second live stream. One other thing that I need to tell you is that I am coming to you from Memphis, Tennessee. And right now in Memphis, we are having a bit of a weather event. There's high winds outside, and for reasons passing understanding, Memphis has most of our power lines still hanging from poles. They're not underground, so power may be an issue. The good news is, knock on wood, that we have set up some battery options. So in the event that we do lose power, we should, in theory, be able to continue. We're using cell phone internet, and we've got some battery-powered lights in case everything should happen to go dark. So if it does go black, hang out for a second and see what happens. And if it drops, then we love you, and we'll come back as soon as we have power again. But so let me go ahead and bring in my partner for this round of shenanigans, Mr. Doug Thorpe. Welcome, Doug.
Hey, good to be here again, Gary. Thanks for having me.
Doug always gets a round of applause. He always gets a round of applause. That's right. So right off the bat, I want to say that we are just blown away by the response to these videos. We put out the last one last Friday, and that I think is just now passing some 90,000 views, which is incredible to me. That is well beyond anything that we thought possible, and of course well beyond anything that's ever been on Board Game Nation before. So we're just blown away by that, and the round two video seems poised to be even more popular, if that is possible. It is screaming past, I think, 10,000 views now, maybe more. I can't keep track. And if you've commented, thank you very much for commenting. And I've up until today, I've had a record of responding to every single comment that has been made on any one of our videos. But today, for good or ill, we've gotten to a place where it is almost impossible for me to respond to all of the comments. If I did that, I would not be able to continue to continue to work on really anything else. And I'm sure you probably want to see Game 3 next week. So I hope that you'll be patient as we try to get through those.
I've been trying to help a little, but I'm not as good at Gary. Good as Gary.
Yes, no, Doug's doing great. He's certainly been in there trying to answer some of those comments, and we certainly appreciate that. So, well, without any further ado, we've got people checking in the chat here. We've got people from Denmark checking in. Hey, Denmark, what's up? Thanks for coming by. Thanks for staying up late with us. It's what, 2 o'clock in the morning there? Good gravy, man. Northern Indiana's here, and we've got some folks from Michigan that are here. Lansing is one of my favorite cities. And of course, Mr. John Bosch is here. Thank you, John. Good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Good to have you, John.
That's right. We love John. Yeah, so this seems to be how most people found us. Apparently somebody at YouTube likes Axis and Allies. So they've kind of pushed it through to anyone that they think might have ever heard of the game. Because a big chunk of the comments have been, I haven't played this game since the 80s or the 90s when I was in high school or college with my friends. I didn't know it was still out there. And I'm just really excited that so many people are getting re-exposed to the game, and I'm hoping to see a lot more people playing. So I think this is just incredible for not just for us and for the channel, and we're just completely blown away by all that again, but also for the game in general. So, and for the community at large. So keep them coming. We're really excited about what you guys have got going on. Oh, holy cow! We've got someone from Perth, Australia. Good gravy. Isn't it like a week and a half in advance there now? Aren't you guys?
That's right.
Is it like February in Australia now? Something like that. I'm just kidding.
Good to have you.
I know it's like 3 days ago in Australia now. I can't remember if you guys are in the future or the past. I think you live in the future. But cool. Well, awesome. So I'm loving all the comments. I'm glad that everybody's here. We've got already almost double as many people now as we had last week. So thank you all for being here. We're looking forward to talking more about the game. So let's start by talking about game one. What do you think were the big takeaways from game one, Doug?
I think the big takeaways, we've said this before, focus on a target, pursue that target. I think that worked out well for us. We got some really good dice rolls in the game, and our opponent got some really bad rolls. But I do think that we will see in time that a sound strategy will win out over even not great dice rolls. So I think that's important. And so I think those are two big takeaways. Just you got to have a plan. You gotta go for that round 5, round 6 victory. Stay focused on that plan. Stay on target there. I think that's a real key to it.
Yeah, I think that made a big difference in the game. I mean, I said this in the video, and I want to reiterate here. Like, we went to the World Championships with the intent of winning, right? We came to win for sure, but you want people to walk away at least having had a good time, right? And so I kind of felt. I hope Eric had fun. I hope that he did, and I hope he also enjoyed the rest of Gen Con, which is kind of the consolation prize. Because one of the downsides of playing at the tournament in Gen Con is that, like, Gen Con is this incredible convention that is just an amazing thing to explore and to experience, but you end up spending 3 days of the 4 like camped out at the table, which is great. Don't get me wrong, that's a lot of fun too. But the consolation prize of like getting eliminated from the tournament is then you get to go and explore Gen Con. So that's not necessarily a bad thing either. So, but yeah, I think luck definitely played a factor in that game. But I think we also had a pretty sound strategy. I hope that I see Eric again in future tournaments. So I hope that he comes back. Got a lot of people that played the game in high school and in college. And, I was kind of in that same space. I think I was 20, 21 when I first learned the game and just loved it ever since. But like so many others, like I kind of got away from it. And it wasn't until about 4 or 5 years ago that, well, I guess about 6 years ago now, that I ran into somebody who was looking for folks to play with. And that was Shannon Merritt. For those of you that have seen any of our pictures or last week's live stream, he all of a sudden just appeared over my shoulder. He may or may not do that again today. He lives only a few blocks from my studio, so he may be watching and then show up. I don't know. He's crazy. But that's
yeah, I want to. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I thought I was interrupting you. Yeah, similar. We talked about this at the beginning of the first video. I played in high school, middle school, high school a little bit. Stepped away in college and grad school, and I was at this discount store in the area, and I think they'd gotten like a pallet of goods from Walmart or something. And there's, Axis and Allies 42 second edition. I'm like, I haven't played that in a really long time. Picked it up. And I was, again, I talked about a little bit of this in the first video. I was like, man, I think I'm halfway decent at this. Found out about the tournament at Gen Con. I actually didn't know I was going to Gen Con at first. There's an Axis and Allies tournament. I'm going to go there. Oh, this is like the largest board gaming convention in the world. Didn't know about this. But I literally, part of my preparation for that was playing myself, which sounds really sad and pathetic. But I say that as an encouragement to those of you out there who are like, yeah, I played this in high school and this makes me want to get the game out or buy a copy. Like, do it. You can find strategies online, whether it be our strategies or others. There's all sorts of information out there on it, and just try some things. And you can learn a lot and sharpen your skills and go to a tournament, find one, make it happen. I mean, it's a great game, and it deserves a great following.
No, absolutely. And that's honestly one of the hopes that I had in doing all the work that goes with this series, and it was considerable, was that I want there to be more like tournaments and more events that we can go to and meet new people and kind of connect and all that. So I think that is certainly one of the objectives of this. And based on the number of views and the thousands and thousands of hours of watch time that have been accumulated by the videos, I think we're getting there. So I'm really excited about that. Well, cool. So Chico's here. He was here last week. Thanks for being here again, Chico. It's good to know that you're on that you know your own strategy. That is true. I think one of the things that you've got to do when you sit down at any game is to have a strategy, and you're not going to be comfortable with it the very first time that you try it. You've got to experiment for sure, but that's part of the fun of it, right? Is to try new strategies and see what's what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of times in any game, but in Axis and Allies, and I think we saw it really in the first two games, is we kind of made our opponents react to our strategy largely. In this game 2 video, for those of you who had a chance to watch it, the pressure exerted against India in the victory city there at Kolkata with Japan, it made them react, and it reacted heavily, and then we were able to change direction and go for another victory city, and it worked out really well for us. So I felt like our opponents were largely being reactive, and not that we weren't reactive. Gary, primarily running Germany there, was playing a little more defensively because of the way things went the first round. That type of thing is going to happen, but obviously, we executed well there in Germany and playing even on a defensive side. So making them really react and have to adapt to what you're doing instead of you being the one who's constantly reactionary, I think is really helpful and key.
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right. I think that when you're into any strategy game, like limiting the options of your opponent is almost always going to be to your advantage. Making your opponent do what you want them to do is going to be a thing. So I've gotten a couple of notes in the chat here that my audio is too low. I just turned it up a little bit. Let me know if that is better or if I need to make a further adjustment here. And I can. I just need to. I don't want to blow everybody out at the same time. So, but while we're looking at that, Rob, thank you very much for the super chat. We got a lot of comments coming in. If you want to make sure that yours gets to the top, you can use the super chat feature. It's $1. If you're feeling crazy, you can go, I think, up to $100 or something, which go crazy. Whatever. But Rob, thank you very much for being our first super chat for the day. Can you compare online versus cardboard or tabletop play? I can. So I have played 1942 online by Beamdog through Steam, and like way back in the day, I played the PC game. I have not played on AAA, and now I'm too loud. People have been saying that to me for years. Bring it down just a little bit here.
I thought the same.
Yeah, no, you're doing great. So, so I played the old PC game, and I played 1942 online. I have not played AAA for a variety of reasons, but I haven't played that one. I will say that the biggest difference between online play and tabletop play for me is the idea of table presence. Right now, this is a concept that is not unique to Axis and Allies. This is something that's really thought about in poker, like when you try to play online poker versus live poker, very, very different. You try to play online chess versus face-to-face chess, very different. So that also translates into Axis and Allies. But more than that, because online play is typically asynchronous, in Beamdog you usually get 24 hours to make a move. Like you can spend hours poring over every move and run however many calculators you want. You can check 3 different websites. You can call your buddy. You can say, hey, Gary, on Board Game Nation, what do you think I should do in this position? Which has happened on more than one occasion, which is fine. I'm happy to answer questions whenever I can. But it's because it's not face-to-face, because you're not on a clock, because there isn't any kind of social pressure other than the 24-hour timer to complete your move, you're not, it's just very different, right? And I'm not saying that one is better than the other. And it's interesting because I asked Larry Harris when I interviewed him 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. I asked him this exact same question. What do you think about online play compared to tabletop play? And his answer, I think, was exactly right. And I think it's probably my answer as well, that they're both great. And I'm glad that they both exist. And he lives in Massachusetts, and he's like, I can play with my friends in Idaho and in Paris and in Cozumel, and wherever they might happen to be, we can jump on and play. But then I can also have everybody over on Saturday to play, in the basement. So it's a different animal, but it is. I'm glad they both exist, but they're very different. So to say that I'm the best, player in the world because we did well at a particular tournament, or I'm a platinum player, blah blah blah, that's like saying that you're the best player in the world because you won a single event at the World Series of Poker. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think that the top guys on 1942 online are absolutely the best players in the world, and I don't think whoever won the World Championships this year or in the last 20 tournaments, it would be very difficult to say that they were the best player in the world. Now, somebody clever comes up with some kind of hybrid, you got to win this, you got to win this, you got to win this, like a decathlon of asks and allies, which I think would just be amazeballs. Let's do that. That's Doug, I want you to work on the rules for that.
Yeah.
But until that happens, I think that they're just different animals.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this. I would say the medium is very different, right? You have the Lord of the Rings books and you have the Lord of the Rings movies. Any situation like that where you're taking a book and making it into a movie, they're going to be different. There can be strengths and weaknesses on both sides. I would actually argue that now I've played AAA some. It can be a little bit different, but let's just take Beamdog, and I'm not saying one is better than the other, but I think they're different games. To me, there's three rule differences that come to my mind immediately. One of them I think is huge. Probably two of them are pretty big. One's minor. So the minor one is you cannot transport your allies' units in your transports. I don't think that comes up as that significant often, but it can.
Yeah.
The second one, which I would argue is, again, not the biggest difference, is you can't land airplanes on your allies' carriers. Again, significant. We saw that in game one. We used that strat. Came up an opportunity to do that. That's big, but it's not the biggest in my opinion. In my opinion, the biggest comes to what you were talking about, Gary, with the asynchronous play and not getting to choose your casualties in the given situation. To me, that alone makes them completely different games. One thing that I was taught by, I could go down the list, Charles and Jeff and Carl and all these guys that I've played over the board, is choosing your casualties in the right order is a fundamental part of a strategy, and it's a fundamental part of the way that I've kind of developed my Pacific strategy with the allies, maybe in particular with the Axis also, but it's true everywhere on the board. So I would argue that it doesn't make online necessarily worse. It's not a lesser game, but it is a different game, I would say, fundamentally because of that. Because I know you can make settings in there that based on value of units or save a lane unit to capture an island. Like I'm aware that there's settings you can do, but to me, there's a lot of circumstances in the game, and if you can't look at what is happening, base your losses on the exact situation at that moment in time, it's pretty significant in my opinion.
Okay, so I'm getting some new notes in the comments here that there is an echo, and I am hearing some of Doug on my end, but we're working on that. Let me know if I made a change here. Let me know if that makes it any better. Lots of questions in the comments right now about bidding, and let me start with the first one here. Dave, thank you very much for this question. So I read the tournament rules today, but the bidding explanation was lacking. Can you run through a few examples, please? First, let me say that we made a video about this, and there are a couple of examples in that. And in that one, I think I'm talking to myself, which, it's not uncommon, I suppose. But a good example would be if I wanted to play the allies, per se, I might sit down with Doug as we are starting our game, and I might say, I would like to play the allies, and I will give you 2 IPCs to play the Axis. And he would say,
now I will play the allies, and I'll give you 3 IPCs to play the Axis.
Okay. Well, 3 doesn't give me very much, so I can jump here if I want to. So I really want to play the allies. I'll give you 5 IPCs to play the Axis.
Well, I don't know. I like the allies. So, but I actually think if I'm the Axis and I get 5 IPCs, that'll be good. So I'll take it.
Okay, so and that would be the start of the game. So he would then take the Axis, and he would place 5 IPCs worth of material, or up to 5 IPCs worth of material. He could do 3 or 4, but the breakage would be lost, and then I would take the allies even. So I wouldn't get any bonus for playing the allies. He would just get the bonus for playing the Axis. I hope that makes sense. It does feel a little weird to bid in the negative. I will say that. So normally when you think about like an auction and you're going up, it feels a little weird to me. It feels like you're bidding in reverse, but it does work, and it definitely has its own like strategies, right? So you'll notice that I started by offering a bid of 2, which of course is useless. So it's just me saying that I want to play the allies. Why don't you play the Axis? And it forces him to bid to give me something to take. So it goes back and forth, and it has its own intricacies.
Yeah. Two other things real quick to add to that is, one is when you put that item on the board, the unit has to be somewhere where there's already a unit. You can't just put it in an empty space or in an enemy space or something like that. The second is, once someone has picked, like in our example, Gary's like, I'll be the allies and I'll give you 2. You have to stay with that pattern. So the other person says they will take the allies and they will give the next person 3. They can't say, well, I'll take the Axis and I'll give you 5. They can't like switch sides. So whoever goes first on the bid is kind of like setting the tone for whoever's choosing the side is giving the other side the money, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So there's a roll. Usually what you do is you'll roll first to see who's going to bid. So you roll 2 6-sided dice. Whoever gets the highest number can either start the bidding or they can defer. And if they defer, then the other person has to bid first. And that's usually how I like to do it. I like to defer because I want to make the second choice, right? I want to make my choice with as much information as I possibly can. This is why you want to be on the button when you're playing poker. So for that same reason. I hope that helps. So do you guys play 50th edition? By this, I assume you mean anniversary. And the answer to that question would be yes, as often as possible. I think it's a great game. And I'm going to break a little news here, friends. Are you ready?
Uh-oh,
here we go. Renegade's cool with this. So we've all been eagerly clamoring for a reprint of Axis and Allies Anniversary Edition. And I've spoken with my contacts at Renegade because, I watch my chats and my comments, and people ask about it all the time. So I finally reached out to them and asked them what the story was, and they said that we should all very much tune in to the briefing that's happening next week, because apparently there's going to be some news, which I think is going to make a lot of people really happy. So I don't know how they call it Anniversary Edition, though, right? Like I don't know. Like I suppose every year's an anniversary, but it's right. Fine. I don't care what they call it. But I'm excited about that possibility for sure. So that's hopefully very good news. I don't know.
That's awesome. I would love to. I've played Anniversary. I like it. I have have one Gen Con win at Anniversary. Trophy for that. I think the World Championship, that'd be great for that to be an Anniversary Edition in the future. It'd be fantastic.
No, absolutely. Yeah. So the live stream, you'll be able to. I believe it's linked at the end of this video and in our description. If it's not there, I'll put it there as soon as we are finished here. But for sure, you can find it on Renegade's YouTube channel. So Renegade Game Studios, YouTube blah blah blah. You know how to do it. You made it this far. You probably know how to use YouTube already. One thing that John Bosch pointed out in the comments is that bidding is not supported by Axis and Allies Online by Beamdog. I don't know if it's supported on AAA or not. I don't know if it is or not.
I know you can go into the settings and add like an extra unit
Oh, okay.
But I don't know that there's actually bidding. It's been a while since I've done AAA.
Yeah, I don't know either. If you know in the comments, let us know. But the other thing is that, and I mentioned this in the bidding video, is that it's a really good way to settle who's going to play which side in casual play, right?
Yeah.
And like if you're playing with somebody who's less experienced, you might just use the same process, but just give them 10 IPCs or 12 IPCs that they can put on the board wherever they want. Right? So as if they had won a bid of 10 or 12 or 8 or whatever it is that you want to give them. So I think that's a good way to balance the skill levels of players. And of course, everybody's got an opinion about this game is slanted to the Allies, this game is slanted to the Axis, whatever. Then you can also use this process to kind of balance that, which is good. So yeah. So I hope that answers all the questions about bidding. That is very good.
Yeah, I think it's a good balance. It's a great balancing tool for the game too. Again, you want to be the Allies. You're willing to pay someone some money to be the Axis. You want to be the Axis. You're going to give money to be the Allies. Like, it's great from that perspective.
Yeah, totally. I think that's absolutely right. So I advertised this as the live stream for the follow-up for round 2. I'm curious, has anybody out there got specific questions about round 2? So there was a couple of things that I specifically said that we would be talking about during the live stream, and I probably should have written those things down, but I didn't. But the big question, this is something that we did say that we were going to talk about during the live stream, which is the missing fighter. Okay, so for those of you that have not had a chance to watch the round 2 video yet, a quick recap of what I'm about to talk about. So between round 1 and round 2, Greg Smorey, who's the tournament organizer, who has been doing this for 30 years now and does a really good job, and has probably done more for Axis and Allies than anyone other than Larry Harris.
Yeah, Greg's
down,
been
for
huge.
sure.
Yeah.
So just to kind of boil this down here is that apparently there had been an incident between in a different Axis and Allies event where a piece had not been placed on the board before the game began, and there was a big hubbub about it. I don't know all the details about that one, but to try to head that off at the pass, Greg got everyone that was playing in round 2 around in a circle and made a big deal about saying that you can't make sure that you double check your boards, because we will not be adding any pieces to the board post start of the game. So once the first purchase is made, anything that's on the board is on the board, and that is it. He made a hard and fast. That makes sense. And so we went back to our table, and it was me and Doug and Steve and John. And Steve and John sat down on their side of the table, and they checked the Axis. Doug and I checked all the Allied pieces. And when we got to the end of UK 1, or about halfway through UK 1, we realized that there was a fighter missing in French Indochina, Thailand. And we kind of went back and forth about it and talked about it for a minute. And Steve and John decided that we should stick with what Greg had said and not add the fighter to the board. Now, I will say that that was frustrating, but they were certainly within their rights to do that, particularly because Greg had just made this big deal about this very thing. And what's strange is that had never happened to me in any tournament game ever before. So like the odds that like Greg made a big deal about it and then it immediately happened, that seemed weird by itself. But so when we discovered it, we wanted to, it was our opinion that we should be able to make that change. But in the end, we decided that we would just move on and get on with it. And that's what we did. So there was a lot of comments out there that were critical of Steve and John. And I want to nip all that in the bud. No. Steve and John played within the rules. And I think that they made a reasonable choice, and we're playing at the World Championship. And in theory, we should have stopped and double checked all of the Axis pieces once we decided that we were going to be playing the Axis. But they had just checked it, so we kind of moved on. But it was a live and learn kind of moment. So our beef is not with Steve and John. Like, I like Steve and John, and I look forward to playing with them again. Our beef is with the rule itself, and we're hoping very much that this rule gets revisited for future events. I think that there's got to be a better way to do it. My opinion is that the game is better served by having an accurate game versus who was best at being able to set up, right? So I think that's kind of how I feel about the whole thing. So, Doug, what are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, it was tough because again, we kind of checked the setup for the countries that were setting in front of us, which was the Allies. The other guys checked the Axis. But I ended up, I was kind of in charge of Japan. Again, we play as a team, but we kind of designate countries. I was in charge of Japan. I should have noticed it, so I take responsibility. Yeah, it was tough. It was tough that I have been in tournament games before where something like this happened. And I think every time we've just put the piece on the board, no substantial decisions have been made at this point that are impacted by that piece not being there. So let's just put it on. If Japan's done with their turn and America starts going, or, Japan has started rolling dice, there's points in the game where there's no return. But, yeah, so, I mean, that's kind of how it played out. I feel like I probably should have noticed that. Again, I was hunkering down and watching what was going on in Russia and Germany and didn't really even pay much attention until it got to Britain started their combat moves, and it was like, wait a minute, where's that fighter? So, yeah, that was tough, but it's okay.
Yeah, so we just, we moved on, and we are going to, see if we can figure out a way to make that better. There's a good question here. Let me see if I can get to the right slide real quick. Hey, Iceland worked out great, by the way. I don't want to hear any crap about it.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
I think
that guy's still there, as far as I know. I think his descendants.
That's right. They're still there. They're still there. That's right. That's right. So the question comes from Super Pumpkin. What was with the small push into Leningrad with the Germans on turn one? I assume here that you're talking about our move. Instead of coming in heavy, we just took it light with a couple of, maybe 2 guys, 3 guys maybe. Yeah, so the idea is that when you're working the Eastern Front, particularly early in the game, you spend a lot of time with dead zones, right? And the idea is to move that dead zone further and further towards your opponent's capital. Right. So if in this particular instance, the dead zone for us was Leningrad. So I take it on my turn, the opponent takes it on there, I take it on my turn, we go back and forth. And so it's just kind of this dead zone where we're just sending in light units. And this is, again, what the fighters are really good for, right? Tanks are terrible at this because once they get there, they're stuck, right? Fighters are really, really good for this. Another reason why I like this for the Russians, because this dead zone thing, this is key to a successful Russian game. So you'll notice that he's got a big force here in West Russia, and I didn't want to put our stack at risk until I had more forces to go with it. So we waited until turn 2, and then I think Germany comes in heavy in turn 2 because he had backed off of this position and kind of gave us the space there. So that is what the thinking is here, and we didn't actually end up having to go any further than this. Our objective, as I said in the video, was to squeeze the middle. And that is a big chunk of this, is getting a big stack in Leningrad and then constantly putting pressure on Moscow. If it opens up and you can take it, well, that's just fantastic. But it doesn't always. And you only need one victory city more than them to win. So that was kind of where we were. So Doug, any particular thoughts on that?
Yeah, if you were able to watch the Game 1 video, we're trying to avoid what happened to Germany there, where they end up with a big stack of tanks close to the front line, and Russia's able to annihilate them. So that's really the idea there. I don't remember the exact move, but I know we had to move extra men into Ukraine, and so we just didn't have as many infantry to cover our tanks. And so not just specific to this game, but yeah, that's the idea. Is you just don't want to put your tanks in a position where they're vulnerable to counterattacks, particularly when it's on going to move into Leningrad and hold it. We can annihilate his forces if he goes in there and force. If all of our forces are off the front line and can push in there and make a strong counterattack. So there's not really a need to put our tanks at threat.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, yeah, that's a great point. Like, this is what you just described. The question about the soft push into Leningrad is the exact mistake that Eric made in our round one match. He pushed too far, too fast. Now, the Axis have to be fast, particularly in tournament play. But I think that I think that being overly aggressive is equally as dangerous. So Jay, the door guy here, has a great question. Do you guys ever switch strategy mid-game? Well, well, Jay, allow me to point you to, I believe it was Japan 4?
4? Yeah.
Yeah, let me see if I can find that slide real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, this move right here. No, sorry, it's back one more.
Back one.
Japan. It was Japan 3. So we had to.
Yeah, 3, 4. Yeah.
Yeah, Japan 3. Where are you? Here you are. This move right here. I thought this was. This is a really good example of changing gears. So you wanted to know if we changed strategies. I don't know if this was really a change of strategy, but it was certainly a change of direction. Again, the objective in this game was to squeeze the middle and force the Allies to spend as much money possible defending India as we could make them, right? And that is exactly what we did here. They ended up spending enough that Japan couldn't take it, right? It wasn't realistic for Japan to try to step in there. I think I read the calculators, it was like 1%.
Yeah, they had a great defensive India. I mean, they as much as it was a little different, we mentioned this, them pulling out of Egypt to pull all of those units into India immediately was strong. They built, I think, 5 fighters or 6 fighters with Britain in India. They moved the Germans down, or the Russians down early. So yeah, they defended India well. But to Gary's point, that's what we wanted them to do, is put all their money there.
Right, which left this incredible opportunity to make a run for Hawaii, right? And for us to not have to worry about Leningrad, right? So yeah, I don't know that it was a change of strategy necessarily, but it certainly was a redirect of the energy after. It's almost maybe another way to say is that this strategy is kind of a rope-a-dope, right? Like you build this big punch, and they have to brace, and then you punch them over here, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what that's about.
Yeah. I will say that, and that's 100% true, but I never imagined at the beginning that I would capture Honolulu as Japan. My strategy was to go for Calcutta. That was the backup plan. We're going to put pressure on India, and Japan's going to take India. So I think it's fair to say that was the strategy. They defended very well, which creates other opportunities, which you could say it's part of the broader strategy, but yeah. So it was a change for me, and I wasn't thinking that initially.
Doug, I don't know what you're talking about. This was my plan the whole time. Like,
that's right.
That's crazy talk. Don't believe a word that.
It makes sense now.
They're both islands. Don't give me any crap about it.
I think they're both icy too. Right? I can't remember.
Yes. Okay, so what else have we got here? There was a question. Okay, so yeah, this is a question I got a lot of. Let's go back to this real quick. So how do time limits work? What if someone is slow playing? So this is a tricky issue when you get into tournament play because in this version of the game and in this set of tournament rules, there isn't anything that resembles like a chess clock, right? So it's 5 hours total. And there have been instances where I've played people And in fact, I lost in a tournament where I had an opponent take an hour, face-to-face play, take an hour to play the U.S.'s third turn and the Russians' fourth turn. Took an hour to play those 2 turns. And this was at a tournament, and it was in the finals of a tournament. And I was playing the Axis. I needed to make it to at least round 5 to be able to take enough victory cities. And I lost in turn 4 because the time expired and that was the end of the game. Super frustrating. I will say that is part of it. At least it is now. I would like to see some adjustments to that. I would love to see some kind of chess clock rules. I'd have to think about what those actually look like. I know that there are some, I think BBR has some time components to it that I would love to learn more about. But at this point, there aren't any. But there's penalties in terms of like the tournament director can come over and yell at you, I think is pretty much it. And there's a social pressure. There's a sportsmanship to it, for sure. I mean, nobody wants to be that guy.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty effective. I've seen people moving very slow. But if it's, politely say something to them, and they usually move it along and yeah, you get, Greg or someone's helping run the tournament and he'll get them to play faster. So always have appreciated that. Yeah, I always, as much as I've played in tournaments, I always have a hard time like remembering this. It's something like, there's Gary's making it simple when he says there's 5 hours. If you look up the actual rule, it's like 4 hours and 45 minutes plus 15 minutes of extra time. And I always have to refresh myself on exactly how that works, like at the beginning of it. But yeah, essentially 5 hours. And there's usually a gentleman's agreement, which you've noticed us mention in this video. And I think we mentioned a couple other videos, when there's about, 45 minutes left, you kind of agree, we're going to finish this round and get through another round. That way everyone really has the opportunity to get to where they want to get in the game. There's no surprises, and okay, we're going to get through round 5, we're going to get through round 6, whatever that number ends up being. That's usually a pretty common theme that you see within games. Okay, we're going to verbally agree, we're going to finish this round and get into the next, and that way people know that they have to play at a certain pace in order to make that happen. Yeah.
So this brings me to a really important point here. So way more people, of course, have played online and have played casually in their house with their friends and all that stuff, right? So the number of actual like Access Knowledge tournament players that are out there, it's a pretty small number, right? So it's difficult to explain like what that environment is like, particularly at Gen Con. So if you watch like and you see some of the pictures or some of the video B-roll that I have of Gen Con, like you're playing in a massive convention space with thousands and thousands of people walking around and talking about Pokemon and Magic and Wingspan and Robo Rally and every other kind of game in the world, and they're not right on top of you, right? So it's not like it's claustrophobic at all, but it is a fairly chaotic environment, and you're playing with people that you've never met before, right? You're playing in a competitive environment, and there's a clock, and most people have never played with a clock, and most people don't play with people they've never played with before. So it's a really difficult environment if you've never done it before. So like people have like some of the comments that have come in about like Eric or even like Stephen John like are harsher than they need to be. Like this is a tricky environment to play in, and even the most experienced people will make seemingly silly mistakes in this environment. We've got a couple doozies coming up in future games, so it's and we made a kind of a bonehead move in this game by not taking out the carrier and the transport off the coast of India.
I was literally asking Gary, I was like, did you do that right? Like, why? There's an unprotected carrier there. Like, did we miss something? Like, how did we not? Like, why would we? Like, just trying to figure out what the heck happened there. Like, maybe the fighter was on the carrier or not, but still, like, I just can't believe that he wouldn't have seen it. I wouldn't have seen it. Like, we wouldn't have blown that thing up. So who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I think we got wrapped up in staring at the math of India and then trying to figure out like how we were going to change gears and what we were going to do to be successful to get out of that. And I think we just kind of overlooked it. And that's the kind of thing that happens, like when there's a clock and there's people and there's, it's a pressure situation. So, people make weird choices in those situations. So yeah, I mean, it's for those of you in the comments, like, give people some slack. This is a tough environment to play in. It's a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to put people off of it. It is a lot of fun, and you meet some very cool people and have some great experiences and play some great games, for sure.
Good
but
community.
Like, be kind. You weren't at the table.
Yeah, here's another thing. Just keep this in mind, right? Like, you're playing this 5-hour long game, and those things have to be scheduled at certain times. Sometimes they're through meals. My buddy John Elliott went and bought me a meal while we were playing this tournament, and that just the fact that unless you have it there in your backpack, it's not like you can take a lunch break in the middle of this. You get hungry, you get thirsty, you got to stop and go to the bathroom. Like, all these distractions are going on, and if it weren't for John, I don't know if we would have made it through this.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I bring a cooler to this thing so that I have sandwiches and drinks and so yeah, I mean, it's involved, right? So it takes some planning and some forethought, and it's play Axis and Allies for 3 days straight and then tell me how you feel. And you're also, by the way, you're staying at a hotel, right? You're away from your family. You're trying to figure out how to, I mean, it's come play with us.
You should try playing in a global tournament at the same time as the World Championship sometime, Gary. That's an idea.
Right. Yeah. So this is something that has not been mentioned in the videos, is that while we were playing in the 42 second edition World Championship event, Doug was also part of a team that was playing in the global tournament a couple of tables over. Now, his focus was on our games, but when he wasn't playing in our games, he was over at the global table, like on the like playing on the new giant like yoga mat size global map, right? With a couple of just absolute world-class players. And so he was like, also had his brain wrapped up in that. And I will say that, like, if anybody was watching Board Game Nation at that time, thank you very much for watching. I was editing videos during the breaks. So like, it was a lot of brain power going on there. So my brain was goo by the time we got to Sunday afternoon. So, but yes. So let's get back to game 2 real quick. I hope that answered the questions. Eric, you're my hero. This was great. This just happened to work out. So this is at the start of Germany 4. The Americans had landed with this carrier and a cruiser, but we had picked off the destroyer in C-Zone 10, C-Zone 11 at the beginning of the game, and they never bought one. And so I said, okay, well, let's drop some subs here and see what happens. And they ended up like booking it. They ran away. They were terrified of these things, which I was really kind of surprised by. Like, I thought it would be annoying more than anything else, but they dropped off their guys in Paris and then turned around and ran for back to Canada. Right? I'm like, okay, cool. Which basically, like, as far as this made it impossible for them to threaten both Rome and Paris, which almost from here made it impossible for them to win the game. Because we were almost certainly going to take Hawaii, right? We already had Leningrad locked up, and without it, they couldn't do it. So by moving back to the coast here, they reloaded, which I guess was cool, but it didn't mean that they were going to be able to get through. So, but yes, yeah, so thank you. I
loved it.
I thought that was fun.
Destroyers are important.
For sure. All right, so one last thing, or one other thing I want to talk about with this game is there was a best move here that I wanted to talk about for the UK. And I'm trying to remember, I believe it was UK 3.
It was before I moved my fleet away.
Yes, before you sped off. Yes, yes, yes.
Yep.
Okay, so this is a little bit tricky to explain here. Let me see if I can do it. The idea in Burma, right? And we've got our transports here, and these are the only other two land units that can threaten India. So it's UK's turn here, and what I think the A move was, and I don't expect anyone to have actually seen this at the table, because this is one of those moves that it's like, what? Like, you wouldn't even think about it in real time, but when you spend hours like resetting the game, you get a chance to kind of rehash all of this stuff. So here's what I think the A move would have been for the UK in this turn. It would have been to send all of these forces and this, all these guys and the two fighters to hit these 7 land units in Burma. Now, there are 93% chance to win this. We know this already, right? There are 93% chance to win here. But you're putting your fighters at risk, which is, not always great. But what I'm saying, the A move is to use your 93% here, flatten all these guys in Burma, right? So that there are no land units there, meaning that the only way that Japan is going to be able to take India this turn is to send a transport down to 37 to pick up these two guys right here. Okay? And here's where it gets tricky. So non-combat, you land whatever fighters you have left in India, and then you send the carrier into Sea Zone 37. So why does that matter?
This is the A move.
Yes, this is nasty, because what ends up happening is now Sea Zone 37 is a hostile sea zone, and you cannot load transports in a hostile sea zone. So what that means is that on Japan's next turn, which is immediately following this one, the best that they could do would be to attack 37 to destroy the carrier, and then non-combat those infantry units someplace else. They cannot attack India with any land units on the following turn, which gives the Allies an entire another round to bring in Russian units, to build more fighters, to maybe get those American fighters over from the carrier group over there off of Wake Island. So yeah, I mean, it's that to me was the A move, and I don't know what would I don't know land unit, because now Shanghai is going to be very difficult to defend.
Really caused a lot of problems for us. I would not have taken Hawaii. There's no way I would have gotten there, and we would have been more concerned there in Burma. So they're 1, 2, 3 spaces away from Shanghai. So if they only advance 1 space per round, it would take them till round 6 to get there. So I think it would really depend on how much the Allies can coordinate to clear blockers and blitz through those territories in a faster fashion. Because if they're only making 1 space per round, then they would never get there.
Yeah, I think the Allied air power there would definitely have to have been involved. So the Russian fighters, and maybe the American fighter to swing in there and try to clear out some of the guys. But I mean, the Russians have been building all these tanks, so in theory, this is a way that they could have moved 1 per turn. Then the Russians could then kind of plow through.
Clear
anyway, so this I think was the A move. I'm open to comments about it, but I think we'd have been they would have seen that move in real time. Again, I don't expect anybody to have seen this. I didn't see it at the time. I did see the threat to land units as a problem, but my immediate thought was, well, we can just pop down here and pick up these 2 guys. No problem. And we've still got, a mountain of air power with 1, 2, 3, 4 bombers, 5 fighters, 2 I mean, we had a lot. So but yeah, it was so that was the A move that I spoke of in the
we've talked some about the dice rolls. Like when we attacked Burma, I mean, they hit us 4 times. If I remember correctly, right? They had 4 guys there and they hit us 4 times. So that significantly reduced the number of forces there in Burma. I don't know what the odds are. They should have hit 1, 2, probably 2 times, something like that. So it's just interesting how these, like, the little battles can kind of cascade into something bigger. And I think we'll see more of that throughout these games. But this is a great example of it. we went in there with those airplanes, the bombards, and all that stuff, and yeah, they hit us 4 times. That was a tough one to swallow, and it left us exposed in Burma. And I think they were playing so defensively and saw airplanes and bombers and battleships and more land units and just thought we need to hole up instead of taking the initiative and a lot of times the aggressor was rewarded and they could have taken us out of Burma. Even if they didn't block the East Indies, it still would have been tough if they would have killed those 5 land units.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, well, that is where that ended up there. Any last questions about this particular game? Let's see what we've got over here. Lots of questions about the tournament rules, which I think is fun. So, yes, Eric, I still agree with you that was the move of the game. It was certainly the most fun move of the game, that's for sure. In tournament play, can you use battle calculators on a phone or tablet or just pen and paper? The answer is you are not allowed to use any electronic device at the table as an assistant to play. I kept pulling mine out to take pictures, which is what allowed me to be able to do this. But you can't use calculators at the table. Slows the game down forever. You end up with people with analysis paralysis, and they're just like pounding away on their calculators. But you can use, and we do use, pen and paper to tally, attack values and try to get a feel for whether or not something's going to work. So,
a lot of math in your head.
It is a lot of math in your head. That is for sure. What else we got here? Yeah, so again, I think we're talking about the difference between versions of play and different environments. So this is a great comparison from John Bosch. It's the difference between speed chess or blitz chess and then long play, right, or classical. Yeah. So it's they're different games. I mean, they really kind of are. The environment that you play them in and the length and the type of brain power that is required to do it is very, very different. So yeah, and as John says, each environment has a distinct community and play style. So I think that's probably true. I mean, global players are different than 42 players. Sprinters are different than marathoners, right? So it's a different thing. Thanks, John.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, I follow chess just a little bit. Hikaru Nakamura, big fan of his. I recently watched a video of his where he was just playing, casually talking about the top 5 3-minute chess players in the world, and people in the chat were saying, no, no, no. And he made this distinction between, if you know anything about chess, there's where, in speed, different variations of speed chess, you can move, and then there's a move with an increment. So every time you move, you get a second or 3 seconds added to your clock. And he said the difference between 3-minute chess and 3-minute +1, so every time you make a move, you get 1 second, a different list of the top 5 players in the world. Now, there was some overlap, but he's like, some players, you play 3, this guy's in the top 5, you play 3 +1, he's not in the top 5 anymore. It changes it, just that subtle thing. So it's not a 1-for-1, but just to piggyback on what John Bosch is saying there, yeah, it's just a different game. It's very, very different in the way it changes the way you play, the moves you make, the aggression that you put forward. So,
yep, for sure. So Storm Rider here, who's got a good question. Who keeps track of the IPCs? The answer to that question is kind of everybody. And it's almost exclusively done on pen and paper. I am a very tactile guy, and so I like to use poker chips, which I keep a stack of on my desk. I worked in casinos for a long time, so I'll sit and shuffle checks at the table, which I think is fun. So I like to use poker chips, certainly in casual play, and sometimes I'll use them in tournaments. I didn't happen to use them this time, but yeah, there's a great example of that. That is how our game played out, and it's also a really good way to analyze a game, right? So
yeah.
So yes, so that's how that works. Please answer Tom Plum's question. Oh, So, spoil the Calcutta Crush. How would you counter the Calcutta Crush? Well, they did it. And the answer to how do you beat that is you get the Americans involved. And that was really the problem in this particular game for the Allies is that, and I think at the end of the video, Doug makes a really great kind of illustration of it. Like the U.S. didn't really do anything in this game, right? So, I mean, they bought some naval units, they bought some guys, and they moved around a little bit. But at the end of the game, they're, in the Atlantic and the Pacific, they're back at their coasts. So the answer to this question is that the Americans have to rally enough forces to pull us off that course. And when they do that, then they're probably going to win.
Yeah, if Gary had at the end of the video where it was like, I think it was the attack on Paris was less than 1%. The naval battle was 1%, and then Hawaii was 30%. If America splits its forces, tries to do those 3 battles to get those 2 victory cities. And someone put in the comments, I don't know if it's accurate. I think the guy said he was ballparking it. It's probably like a 1 in, I think he said 10,000 chance. Maybe it was 1 in 1,000, but I think it was 1 in 10,000 chance of getting all 3 of those. And again, like if America took Paris, right? They had a guy there. I guess, technically, could they have attacked it there at the end? Yes. They had a less than a 1% chance. But if they would have focused all of that energy in the Pacific, they would have never lost Hawaii. And they could have, look at the Philippines islands, in the shot where Gary was just talking about, they could have, Britain could have moved the carrier down to season 37. It's empty. I was able to pull my guys out of the Philippines island and not worry about it because they had like 1 transport out there, and my Navy was twice the size of theirs. Plus, I had a lot of air to back it up. So if they would have focused anywhere, it could have been significant. And I think that's one way to counter the Calcutta Crush is for America to exert pressure against Japan, because then Japan can't have their entire Navy down there, pressuring India.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's about Allied coordination, right? I mean, that's what it was about in the real war, right? And it's the same here, getting everybody moving in the same direction. I've said it in any of my strategy videos that you'll watch, and in any of the videos that we've talked about here. It's about picking particular targets and staying at them. In this particular game, like the Calcutta Crush, as I say in the video, is more. So the move to Leningrad, the move to India is a pressure game, right? If you think about a chessboard, you're trying to control the middle of the board, right? That's the key. One of the big keys to being successful in chess is controlling the middle of the board. That's kind of what we're trying to do here, but only to get them to devote all of their resources to that space, and so that we can pick off. So that we don't have to worry about anything that's beyond the center, and then it opens up the opportunity to pick off some other targets. There's also a German strategy here where once you know that you're not going to lose Leningrad, you drop a fleet in Sea Zone 5, particularly if the British have been spending all of their money down in India, right? If they spend all their money down here and London is looking palatable, you maybe save money, a little bit of money on Germany 3, and then drop a big fleet on Germany 4 with hopes of landing in London on Germany 5. And that can be successful. And I've had it be successful once, and I've had it fail once. And the time that it failed was against Doug in the semifinals in 2019. I look back at the math for that. I think that because I was playing solo in that tournament, I think I was like a 35% odds to take London, which I'll roll those dice all day, particularly if it's for the game. So, all right, great. And man, lots of questions here. This is great. So we're running a little bit over time here, but Doug, if you're okay, we'll keep going. If you're okay,
we'll keep on going.
All right, then we'll give it another few minutes here. Howdy, Pilgrim. Yes. So Mike Olt's got a question here. It's harder to manage the allies in a tournament play since there are 3 factions to play with. No, no, I don't think so. I think that this is the biggest advantage that the Allies have, is that they're going to take 3 turns and the Axis are only going to take 2. So this is, to me, the advantage. Now, it takes a little bit more coordination. It takes a little bit more logistical forethought, right? Knowing that you're the Americans and you're buying a unit on turn 2 that needs to be here by turn 5, right? And being able to see that far ahead. That can be harder, for sure.
So I think what Gary just said is the answer is yes.
Yes, pretty much.
I'm teasing a little bit, but I do think there is, I think I would have probably said yes in that, just what you said there, like you have to coordinate more. It's not that Japan's doing their own thing and Germany's doing their own thing. As you can see in this game, we try to coordinate, and that's really important for the Axis, but I think it's even more important for the Allies. You saw that in Game 1 with Britain and America against Japan. I think you're going to see that more in coming games. Like, the Allies have to have really precision coordination in order for them to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got one of the guys who played in round 3. So that would make you either Ian or Donnie. Thanks for dropping in here. I'm looking forward to talking with you about it as well. Yeah. Feel free to reach out, and you can find us through the Board Game Nation Facebook page. That would be the easiest way to reach out to me directly. And I'd love to talk with you about it. And if you've got any thoughts that you want to share, I'd be happy to talk with you about it for sure. So I hope that you get a chance to reach out to us there. Just Facebook, and you can search for Board Game Nation, and I think we're the only ones that come up. So so thanks for dropping in, and we hope to talk with you about that.
Yeah, thanks for dropping.
Because that was a hell of a game. Like round 3,
it was a good game.
It was a very good game. I'm editing like a madman right now to try to get that ready for next week. So cool. Yes, semifinals next week. What are common settled bids in 42nd edition? Is it figured out? I thought it was figured out.
This tournament was one of the craziest bidding. I feel like for about 3 years it was pretty consistent. 5 to the Allies. I got as high as 8 one time. Someone gave me 8 to be the Allies. 6 was very common for the Allies, but this tournament was all over the place as far as the bids, and I was very, very surprised. Yeah,
so the answer to that question, Kyle, is no. We thought it was.
Apparently
when I played in 2019 and I played in 2021, in every instance, the bid always went to the Allies in varying amounts. But for the most part, it was 3, 4, 5, and 6 was usually the high number, and that was almost always the sub off the coast of India. But yeah, the answer to that question is no. If you'd asked me this question before this tournament, I'd have said yes. But the answer is not so much, because we're seeing some really strong allied strategies here that are pushing people more towards wanting to bolster the Axis position, which I think is great. Like, I love to see the game evolve, right? And that's one of the reasons why, some people are really protective of their strategies, which I just think is weird. Right? Like, why would you go out, if you won a tournament, or won a game, why would you go out and tell everybody how you did it so that they can be ready to beat you next time? Well, because I want the game to get better, right? I want the game to continue to evolve. So so no, the answer is this game is not figured out. And I think that's a testament to the quality of its design.
I think generally people would say that the advantage is slightly to the Axis, so the Allies would get a few dollars. But in this tournament, I think there were at least 3 games that I'm aware of where the Axis got money, but probably some that I'm not aware of where the Axis got money.
Echab, how many countries participate in this championship? So yes, it is called a World Championship, and as John Bosch points out here, Gen Con is an international tournament, and there are people that show up for this tournament from all over the world. But I will say that it is overwhelmingly American. There are, I believe there were some Canadians that were there, and I believe there's a guy who comes from it's either Germany or Switzerland. I can't remember. But he had, but he definitely had kind of a Swiss German accent. Super nice guy. But so yes, there is. I would love to see. Can I tell you? I'm gonna give you my dream scenario. Can I tell you? This is my dream scenario. I want this game to be as big as Catan. Right? So like, there's Catan tournaments all over the world. So there's a Catan national championship in Canada. There's a national championship for Catan in Germany. There's a national championship for Catan in France and all over the place. And then those people come together to play in a big world championship that I think it might be at Essen in Germany. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I would love to see. And I hope that happens, right? I love this game. And I think that there's a lot of really great play and ways for this game to continue to grow and to change. And we've got new additions coming out this year with North Africa, and the G.I. Joe game, I think is, it's going to be a little bit juvenile and probably a little bit, simplified so that it can target younger players. But like, that's how we build the next generation of Axis and Allies players, which I think is just fantastic. I can't wait for my oldest grandson, who's 3 now, to be old enough for me to teach him how to play Axis and Allies with G.I. Joe. Like, how cool is that, right? Like, let's go do that, So I think that to me is my what I would love to see happen. I would love to see this be a much more international game. We've got great fans in Australia and New Zealand and Denmark and France and Austria and UK and all over the world, South Africa. We've got lots of great fans all over, but I would love to see this be a more universal game. Well, thanks for making it weird. Appreciate that. Canadians game naked. Well, it's cold up there, bro. Put some clothes on. I don't know what you're talking about. Well, here's somebody who's volunteering to come from New Zealand. Love to have you. I've got some great fans that I've had some great conversations with in Dunedin. They've invited me to come play down there, and I would love to do that. So let's go play in Dunedin.
Let's do
I'll
it.
be a hobbit. You can be an elf. It'll be great. Come on, it'll be fun. All right. Well. Oh, okay. There's the answer to that question. I assume this is. Oh, I see. You're saying an Axis and Allies tournament here rotates every 2 years from Gen Con to Essen. Ooh, yes. I'll go to Essen. I'd love to go to Essen. I would love that. That'd be a lot of fun. All right. Well, I hate to leave any questions unanswered in the chat here, but I think we probably need to wrap it up. We've run a bit over here, but man, we're just blown away by the response here. See, now you've done it, Rob. You did it again. I'm a sucker for $2. I don't know what you want me to tell you. What wish list do you have for future changes to the game? Yeah, Doug, what do you think? You go ahead. I've been talking for a long time. What do you think?
I was hoping I'd get a couple minutes to think about it.
Right.
I would like to see Anniversary Edition back in print. We've already said that. I think that's a little bit of a bigger game, a more complete game, more balanced game than this one in some ways. Like that a lot. I would love to see... I think there's a couple of things. Like, I want to be really clear. Like, I love Greg Smorey. I consider him a friend. I think he's done a fantastic job of running the tournaments. I think there could be a couple of things looked at as far as the time considerations in a tournament. How that kind of plays out. There could be something like that I think would be good. We could get into minutia. Like, someone, again, in the first video talked about, do you ever buy a cruiser? The Allied players bought some cruisers in this game. I don't think a cruiser is a worthwhile unit at $12. Like, I could see reducing the price of it or letting it do something else, I mean, even similar with a battleship. There are some circumstances where you should build a battleship, though. It's rare, but it does come up. But I can't think of a situation you'd ever buy a cruiser. So I feel like there's this piece that's like, if you begin the game with it, it's fine. They're great from bombardments, and they're a 3/3 unit, but you're never going to buy one. So a tweak to the cruiser, I think, could make it a more usable unit. Those are a couple things that come up to the top of my mind.
Yeah, I saw recently a really great, what I think might be an interesting house rule for cruisers, and maybe it's something that makes it into the rule books, is that cruisers get an AA shot.
Yeah.
Which would, like, now all of a sudden, like, that's a much more attractive unit, particularly for an American fleet trying to engage Japan, right? Like that, that's now something you've really got to think about when it comes time to move out there. So, I mean, there's small, what are relatively small things like that, but the base mechanic is really so strong that you can build out all different kinds of ways to do it.
Yeah, and I think the key is to not break the game. Like, I think I've heard an idea of, like, maybe battleships and cruisers get 2 rounds of amphibious assault instead of just 1 shot. I haven't really thought about that one very much. That might break the game. Maybe it wouldn't, though. Maybe it would really, I don't know. So...
Yeah, I mean, that's why we do play testing. But yeah, I mean, to me, to answer your question, Rob, I think that the answer is more players. I'd love to see a centralized way for people to meet. For like, the number one question that I've gotten on my channel in the last 3 years is, how do I find people to play this game with? And I would love to see a centralized way for people to do that. And I think the best way to do that is through more organized play, through regional tournaments, things of that nature that maybe lead up to a Gen Con event or an event at Essen, one or the other, or both. But yeah. So anyway, so that is, I believe that is our time. Rob, thank you very much for the 2 super chats. You know what you get? Round of applause for the super chat. And
I was expecting the Glockenspiel, to be honest.
Glockenspiel. That's what you get. That was for the second super chat. There's an evolution here. The first one you get a round of applause. The second one you get a Glockenspiel. I don't know what happens with the third one. I got like 40 sound effects here. It could be anything. You never know. I might just start that same music from the wait screen over again.
That's right.
All right. Well, awesome. Well, thank you very much, guys. It has been a pleasure talking with you. Doug, thank you so much again for being here.
Yep.
Thank you to our friends at Renegade Games again for sponsoring the series. Make sure that you tune in to their, they've got 2 big live streams coming up next week that will be linked in the description. I believe it's the 18th and the 20th. Matt Hyra is going to be talking about North Africa, which I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but I have confirmed from our friends at Renegade that both Guadalcanal and North Africa are at the printers. So they are in production, which is very exciting. The idea that they've like voted on that game just like, that seems like it was just like 5 or 6 months ago. I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was 5 or 6 months ago. And they've gone from like everyone saying, let's go to North Africa, to the games at the factory. Like in that amount of time, that seems... I'm impressed by that. You know what that gets? Glockenspiel. I like it. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. Keep the comments coming. I will do my best to answer them as quickly as we can. I will be editing like a madman for the next few weeks to get rounds 3, the semifinals and the final matches done and put together. And lots to do. So when this is done, I'm going to sleep for about 4 days. Because it's been pretty tough to get this done. So, Doug, any last thoughts?
Thank you, Gary. Thanks for everybody for watching and the great questions. It's been fun.
Yes. Thank you all very much. Keep watching. You and half of the planet apparently are watching these videos, which I'm super excited about. So thank you very much. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.